Good morning, one and all. We are now live on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. So welcome to one on another session of daily learning with lockdown inspiration. Thank you for joining. I'm going to get to all your personal comments in just a moment. What we always like to do is ask people who are joining us on either of the two platforms, either on Facebook or on YouTube, to please comment. We just got some people logging on. So keep on posting, guys. Keep on posting your greetings and your welcomes. I'm going to get to all your comments in just a moment. Please keep on posting. Welcome to one and all who are joining us on this fresh morning, Friday morning. We're getting ready for Shabbos. That's the positivity we're going to feel. We're getting ready for Shabbos. Hope you're all being well. I just got back from a run this morning. It was fantastic. And now we're ready for some discussion. And let's talk. Let's discuss. So thank you for joining. Let's see who's joined us. If you're just joining now, please do comment. I see people are logging on now, so let's give it a moment for people to log on. Okay, good morning, everyone. Just stay with us for a moment. All right. Good stuff. I see people are logging on now. Okay, so wonderful morning. Let's welcome everyone who's joined. And if you're commenting, please do comment. We want to know who's with us. Good morning, Larry Cohen. Good morning, Manfred Kalmuk. Bernice Krauss. Oh, you liked our conversation yesterday. Thank you. Shirley Feldman, good morning. And Hack, thank you. Michael Stein, yes, it is a beautiful morning today. Dennis Solomons, thank you. Boker Tov, Norman Stein. Mark Vachanam, Boker Tov. Dee Tanner, all the way from Cape Town. David Ginsberg, good morning. If you're just joining us now, please let us know. That was on Facebook. Let's see who's on YouTube. The Clemensons, thank you, Ian, Fager, Dennis on YouTube. Wonderful. People are just logging on. Thank you for joining. If you're just joining now, we'd love to. Engage with you and talk to you and welcome you. Stephen Herr, good morning. We are dedicating, yes, thank you very much for your message on YouTube. We'll dedicate learning Le'ili Nishmat, your mother, Esther Bat Moshe. Thank you for the comment. If you're just joining on Shelley Smith, good morning to YouTube. Our YouTube participants are getting active here. So let's get the Facebookers. Where are the Facebookers? We want to hear from you. If you're on Facebook and you're joining us this morning, please do let me know. And we welcome you all here for a brand new morning. We're going to discuss some relevant topics that are relevant both to the parsha as well as relevant to the circumstances in which we find ourselves in. Good morning, Shalom Triga. Good morning. Okay, so what I want to talk about is the interesting discussion in the Torah with regards to loans. This is very, very relevant to now because people are going through tough times, tough economic times. And as a result, there is a lot of loaning taking place, lending money and loaning money at this time to allow people to bridge themselves, bridge the gaps, and allow themselves to continue financially. Morning, Marco Becker. Thank you. So it's a phenomenon that needs to be addressed because it's practical. People are lending money, so we got to talk about the regulations and the correct approach. And also because there's got to be a lesson for all of us in this as well. That's the bottom line. It's relevant to now, as I mentioned, because loans are taking place. It's relevant to the parasha because this week's parasha, Parashat Bahar, deals with exactly these issues of someone falling short, issues of someone having shortfall in finances, issues of one going to his friend to borrow money. So that's this week's Parashat Bahar. I see other people are joining together here. Dave Block, welcome aboard. Raylene Brask, Philip Gordon. Wow, our YouTube channel is busy this morning, that's for sure. If you're logging on and on Facebook, we'd love to hear from you. So just post a greeting or a good morning. I'd love to know you're with us. We're over 30 students already, close to 35 students actually, on both platforms. It's almost equal across Facebook and YouTube. It's fascinating because when we started the YouTube channel, it was very small numbers, and now the numbers are growing. Lionel Rubin, thank you very much for your greeting on YouTube. So I'm finding this very, very interesting to see the balance between Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Okay, so I was talking about loans because loans are relevant to now during this difficult financial economic time, and loans are relevant to the Parashas Bahar. So nothing's a coincidence, where it speaks about the importance of lending money to a brother, to one who has fallen short in finances. And let's talk a little bit about that. I want to welcome Brian Feinstein and Helen. Dave Block, you're trying YouTube. That's okay. We've got time to explore all social media platforms these days. Good morning, Monty Isero and Sherilyn Diamond on Facebook. Thank you. I want to thank you. So the question is like this. The question is, we know that Torah says that there's a prohibition about lending money with interest. You're all familiar with that. And one's not allowed to lend money with interest. It's called ribit, interest. And one needs to understand this prohibition. One needs to understand this prohibition because what is wrong in making a bit of money using my money? If I've got spare cash, if I've got spare money, why not use that money to make a bit of money, i.e. lending through interest? If I've got a car, for example, and I let you drive my car, but I charge you while you're driving my car, is that a problem? Not at all. If I have a holiday home and I want to rent out my holiday home to you so you can take my holiday home for the month of December or whenever it may be, am I allowed to charge you money? Sure, nothing wrong with that. Every item I have, my lawnmower, my car, my holiday home, every item I have, I can lend it out for the purpose of business, to make a bit of money. That's the purpose of lending, isn't it? Welcome to Gideon and Tandy Stekol on YouTube. Moritz Walkin, thank you very much for joining. Our numbers are almost equal between Facebook and YouTube. That's fascinating. We're almost 2020. We're on 20 on Facebook now and 18 on YouTube. So let's see what happens in the next few minutes. So why is it that a person can't use their money? They got spare cash sitting in the drawer. Why can't we use our spare money to lend it out to someone and earn a profit on that money? What's wrong with that? My car, I can earn a profit on. My lawnmower, my holiday home, I can earn money on. I can rent out whatever I like. I can have a store of gadgets. I lend out fax machines. I lend out laptops. I lend out iPads. There are businesses that are modeled around this. If you're putting on an event and you need 20 iPads, there's businesses that will give you the iPad for charge. You got to pay for the lending of those iPads. So why money can't you? Okay, you understand that question? The simple explanation is that there's a difference between those items and the money. Can anyone tell me, let's hand it over to you, the students. Can anyone tell me the logical explanation why money should be different? Why is lending money different to lending my car? For my car, I can lend it out for pay, but money, I can't lend it out with interest for pay. Can anyone tell us what the thoughts are? Let's hear it from you. We're learning today for the Yortzeit of your father, Hillel. Wish you long life. Mordechai ben Hillel. Please God, he's the Shomashah ben Aliyah. And he should be a good advocate for you and your family. We are now equal. 18 and 18. Chai. 18 people on YouTube, 18 people on Facebook, 36 people sitting here right now. That doesn't mean we should stop here. So let's increase those numbers. I haven't asked you guys on Facebook, please press share. Share this video. Just under your screen, there's a button that says share. Share it so others can see it as well and hopefully join us too. So any input here from our participants? Why should money be different to our regular objects? Why regular objects, regular items we can lend out? But, okay, so Dennis Bessarabi has a good question on YouTube. What happens if I borrow 1,000 Australian dollars from my brother and when I have to repay, the exchange rate changes in his favor? That's not a problem, Dennis, because it's based on conversion rates. That's not interest. He's not changes in his favor. No, it doesn't change in his favor, Dennis. He'll get the $1,000 back. It doesn't change in his favor. If you borrow $1,000, you pay back $1,000. If it costs you more money, you're not paying it to him. You're paying for the conversion rates. That's not in his favor. It's against your favor, but it's not in his favor. He gets back the same amount of money. Ian Clemenson. Ian writes, money can easily be passed on. The car or flat cannot be easily passed on. Not sure, Ian, if that's enough of a reason to differentiate. Really, unless you want to clarify that more, Ian. But thank you. You're right. That is true. And maybe I can tap into that, Ian. Maybe. Hold on to that thought for a moment. Raylene Brazg, money is interest-bearing. Objects aren't. The question is why? Why? Money is interest-bearing, meaning, what do you mean by that? Money is interest-bearing. What do you mean by that? Raylene Brazg. Other items aren't. My question is, maybe the interest is considered earnings, right? I get paid for lending out money. I get paid for lending out my car. So Raylene, just clarify that thought. Coming to Facebook now. Facebook comments are coming through. This is great. I love this. See if you can tell the banks that. Oh, Norman. No, you can't tell the banks that. But we gotta discuss, Jewish standards, Jewish values right now, Norman. So yeah, I hear your question. I hear your point. Keep on posting, guys. It's a fascinating discussion. Keep on posting. So either on Facebook or YouTube, keep on posting. Our question was, why is it that we can't lend out money for pay, meaning for interest? We can lend out your car, for example, for pay. Per week, per month. So here's the answer. Well, a simple answer, at least. We'll start with this. Money doesn't change. Nothing's changing in the form of the money that I'm lending. So let's take $1,000. Raylene continues. Raylene says there's always an amount of interest that's included in money lending. Yes, Raylene, that's true. But the question is, maybe that interest should be considered payment, just like you pay for a rental of a car. So to interest when you borrow money. That's the question. Why can't we charge that interest when it comes to money lending. The Torah says you can't, by the way. Raylene, the Torah says you can't. The Torah says you're not allowed to lend money with interest. So just keep that in mind. It's not so simple. So the simple answer is like this. Money doesn't change when you transfer from one person to the next. Right? Meaning, let's use Dennis Basarabi's example. I borrow $1,000 or 1,000 rand. Those 1,000 rands are not changing. There's no decrease in value in those rands, in the notes, in the actual notes or coins of that money. On the contrary, most lendings are by EFT anyway, by bank transfers, not via cash. But even if it is cash, even if I lend you cash, that cash is not changing. I can borrow the $1,000 notes and return you $1,000 other notes. That doesn't change. Whereas with the car depreciates in in value. That's a major thing. Or the holiday home depreciates in value. So when I charge you money for borrowing my object, what am I charging you for? I'm not charging you for the time that you're owning it or that you're borrowing it. I'm not allowed to charge you for the time. I'm charging you for the depreciation of the object. By you taking the object and borrowing the object and using the object, it's depreciating in value. And for that, you're paying. Morning, Arlene Udelovitz. Thank you for joining us. Whereas money, there's no depreciation in the money that I'm lending you. The notes stay the same. Nothing changes in the notes. And therefore, nothing changes in the notes. And therefore, what am I charging you interest for? The only thing I'm charging you interest for is for time that you're having it. For that time, you can't charge. You can't make money off that time of owning them, of holding the money. That he's holding the money for a week or for a month or for 3 months. That you can't charge money for. So you understand the difference. The difference is with an item, there's depreciation in the item. That's what you're charging money for. But for money, there's no depreciation in the money. There's time that the other person's holding onto that money. For that time, you can't charge interest. The question is, why not? What's wrong in charging interest? And why can't we earn money off interest or off loaning money? Some of you will be familiar with a loophole that the rabbis have found. And the loophole is called Hector ESCA. Some of you may have had this in your business dealings or in your loans from one Jew to the next. It's called Hector ESCA. It's a contract that's signed through the Beth Din. They can facilitate this, which allows a person to borrow with interest from another Jew. It's quite a complicated story. I don't want to get into it right now. It's too hard to explain this technically over social media. It's also an area that I'm not involved in on a day-to-day basis. Hector ESCA allows for such loans. Just briefly, just to address it briefly, is what it does is that it makes the two people partners together. The borrower and the lender become partners. Rather than just lending you money, we're actually going into a business deal together. That's basically what a Hector ESCA means. And in front of the Beth Din or together with a contract, they will sign on a partnership in the business. Obviously, it'll be structured appropriately and accordingly. That's the Hector ESCA loophole that allows for the lending of money using interest. But that being said, just so you should all know, the writings of the Chachamim, of the great mentors, if I'm not mistaken, the Chafetz Chaim, Rabbi Yitzchak Meir of Radin, comments on this as one of them. And he writes that Yisrael Meir of Radin, Yisrael Meir Kagan of Radin, he writes that the Hector ESCA was not designed for you and I as neighbors. The Hector ESCA contract was not designed so that we should start lending each other with interest and signing these contracts. That wasn't the purpose of it. That defeats the purpose. The Torah asked us not to lend with ribis, with interest. And here we are coming up with a loophole. The loophole was created more for businesses that were structured around this. So let's say a person wants to have a investment business or a lending business, right? Where your parnassa is coming from this. There are many financial institutions that do this, like banks or money lenders. And they earn money through borrowing and lending money. That's their business. All above board and all legal, but that's their business. They're borrowing and lending money all the time. That's how they earn a parnassa. For this, we have a contract, a Hector ESCA contract. So that when he lends money out and someone borrows money to a fellow Jew, you can sign a contract that creates the partnership between the two of them. But not for one man to the next. People get this confused. Not for one man to the next. What about Hillel the elder's prosbul? So, Ian, thank you for the question. The prosbul is not made as a contract of partnership. The prosbul is made for Shemitah purposes, for the sabbatical purposes. Actually, it's this week's parsha too. It relates to this week's parsha. I can't go into depth about the prosbul, but the prosbul is basically a contract that will make sure that the sabbatical year does not remove the loan between us. Okay? So that the loan between us won't disappear. Because normally the sabbatical year removes all loans. And the prosbul is a contract that we sign, also another loophole, that will ensure that the contract doesn't fall away between us. Okay, but let's leave that point for now. So getting back to the actual prohibition, the prohibition is that one person can't lend to the next using ribis, using interest. And the question is why? So I see Stephen's question, can you lend money with interest to a non-Jew? Good question, Stephen. The answer is yes. And the reason for that is because he will do the same to you too. So you can't have it one way. You can't say, well, the non-Jew will lend you money with interest, but you, the Jew, can't lend him money with interest. So therefore, the rules don't apply for a Jew to a non-Jew. We're talking about a Jew to a Jew. And the Jew to a Jew should observe these laws of not lending with ribis with interest. And why? Why is that the answer? And the answer is based on a story in the Talmud. The story in the Talmud in Gemara Gittin tells us a terrible, terrible sequence of stories relating to the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. Many of you will be familiar with the story of Kamsa bar Kamsa that we read in the context of Tisha B'Av and the destruction of the temple. There's one particular story which I think gives light to why we have a prohibition against lending money with ribis, with interest. The story is told about a particular man who had a particular job or business. He was some sort of skill, carpenter or of some sorts. And he had a helper at home. He had a worker who used to help him, an assistant. And the employer, the host, the employer, the business owner, says the Talmud, fell onto tough times. We can relate to that because right now many business owners are falling onto tough times and their businesses are struggling in a way or being challenged because there's lack of income. This particular business owner, says the Talmud in Gittin, fell on tough times and he needed a loan. So what did he do? He went to his assistant. Can you imagine? He went to his assistant and he asked his assistant, can you assist me? Can you help me? And the assistant said, sure. Because obviously the assistant may have had other jobs, other side income, more steady income, and he had some money available. And he said, sure, I'll lend you some money. And he lent him, I'll lend you some money. He says to his employer, just send your wife over later this afternoon to my home, and I'll give her the money. And the Gemara says the wife went to fetch it, and that was the biggest mistake because she didn't come back. And she was gone from her husband's home for 3 days. She didn't return home. So you can imagine what's going through the husband's mind. Where's his wife? She went to the helper's home to fetch money, but she never returned. So he called up the helper. He says, have you seen my wife? He says, yeah, I saw her 3 days ago. She borrowed money from me and then left. I haven't seen her. Maybe someone else has attacked her or taken away as she was heading home. The husband gets very nervous. And the helper continues and he says, but maybe there seem to be some issues there between the husband and wife. And he said, well, if you're not happy with your wife and you're suspecting your wife of inappropriate behavior, it seems like you guys aren't getting along. Maybe it's time to divorce her. So the husband said, yeah, I would want to divorce her, but I don't have the money for it. I can't pay her ketubah. I can't pay her divorce. So the helper, this clever man says, don't worry, I'll lend you that money too. I'll give you the money that you can pay out your wife for a divorce. And he does that. And what happens? The wife goes on, is divorced by the first husband, by the owner, by the employer, and goes in and marries the helper. That's where she was the entire time. 3 days she was missing because she was with the helper. And this helper lends money, takes this man's wife, and then the way he's going to pay back the money, because the deal was, if you can't pay it back, you'll work for me. So he started to work for the employee. He went into the helper's home to help the employee. This is what was taking place in Yerushalayim before the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, of the temple. And the Gemara says, the Talmud says, Hashem saw this behavior. And Hashem said, that's the end of it. If that's the way people are going to behave, if that's the way lending of money is going to take place, if that's the insensitivity that's going to take place, if this man lends money, takes his wife, makes him work under him, no, that's the end of that. And you guys deserve destruction and churban. And he did that. And he destroyed the temple as a result. What do we see in this story? We see in this story that when a person is desperate, he makes all sorts of crazy decisions. Crazy decisions. When a person is poor and lacking of funds, he makes terrible decisions. We know that there's one approach to economics. Socialists. What's a socialist's mindset? It's actually based on a Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, which we're going to read this coming week, chapter 5. We'll get to the Mishnah in a moment. But what do we see here? We see in this story that a poor man loses himself. A poor man at the time of desperation loses himself. And this story explains why the Torah said this. You know why the Torah said, don't lend with interest? The Torah is protecting the rights of the poor man. The Torah is sensitive to this poor man. The poor man at the time of need is going to make crazy decisions. He's going to borrow money here and borrow money there. He's going to borrow money from his helper. He's going to borrow money for his divorce rates. He's going to pay back. He's going to go from an employer to an employee. It's crazy what's going to happen. And therefore Hashem says, don't lend with interest. Because if you lend with interest, what's going to happen is that the poor are going to become poorer and the rich are going to become richer. That's the theory. That's what Torah says. Right? The rich are going to become richer because they have all the money in the world. So they'll keep on lending and lending and lending and lending, and the poor man is borrowing and borrowing and paying back with interest more and more, and can never fill the gap, and will never be able to make and stand on his own 2 feet. And therefore, Torah says that we are, yes, you can lend him a car and he'll pay for the depreciation of the car. You can lend him a holiday home and you can pay for the depreciation of the holiday home. But to lend money so that for a particular time span, the money will be sitting by him, don't charge him money, because we need him to stand on his own 2 feet. We need him to stand on his own 2 feet. I want to touch upon a Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. Let's get to that Mishnah. Hi, Linda and Jaime. Thank you for joining us on Facebook. If there's any questions here, please feel free to engage with us and to connect. The Mishnah says there are 4 qualities in people. One person says, what is mine is yours, and what is yours is mine. Again, what is mine is yours, and what is yours is mine. What does the Mishnah say about such a person? Am ha'aretz. Am ha'aretz. An ignoramus, or men of the land. Okay, we'll get to that. Second quality. Mine is mine, and yours is yours. Mine is mine, and yours is yours. Just look at these 2. Okay, we'll come back to that too. That says the Mishnah, that's midah beinonis. That's like an intermediary level, somewhere in between. Some people say it's not good. It's sdom. It's a sodomite practice. Third level, let's focus on those few. I don't want to confuse our listeners today, so I appreciate you joining us. Let's focus on those 2. If anyone's just joining us now, we'd love to hear from you. So please do put in the comments. But let's focus on the first 2. The first one says, what is mine is yours, what is yours is mine. That's how they live in the kibbutzim. That's how they say. That's how they live in the kibbutzim. It's the socialists. The socialists say, what is mine is yours, what is yours is mine. Let's mix it all. No one can own more than the other. Therefore, the big organizations, the big establishments are going to be owned by the government as socialists, because we don't want you owning the airlines. We don't want you owning the electricity plants. So therefore, we're going to own the superpowers. We're going to own the strong, biggest organizations and companies of the country, because our socialist mindset, our kibbutznik mindset says we are equals. We want everyone to be equals. What is mine is yours. What is yours is mine. We should be able to share with each other. No one should dominate the other. What does the Mishnah say about him? Am ha'aretz. It's the ways of the land. That's not necessarily the Torah way. The Torah way is more of a capitalist mindset. We want you to establish yourself. We want you to work hard and earn a living and succeed and grow. Absolutely. We see that throughout the Torah. The Torah is a capitalist mindset. Abraham becomes wealthy. Yitzchak becomes wealthy. Yaakov becomes wealthy. That's the mindset. Each person to their own. Each person has the right to do as they wish. No one can govern and no one can dictate what belongs to me and what belongs to you. Obviously, there's a concept of taxes. There's a concept of sharing responsibility. Capitalism will not deny that. But capitalism says that each person should be able to stand on his own feet. Capitalism says each person should be able to succeed. And that's why the Mishnah calls socialism as am ha'aretz. It doesn't last. You know why it doesn't last, socialism? Because people don't like working for the state or for the government or for the public. People want to work for themselves. That's our mindset. We want to work for ourselves and establish ourselves and be successful. That's why the Mishnah says that the first attribute of mine is yours and yours is mine. Ama aretz, it's the way of the land. It's not the cleverest way of thinking, because people will be more successful. Societies will be more successful if you gave autonomy and you allowed each person to succeed. And that's why the second attribute of the Mishnah says, what is mine is mine, what is yours is yours. Says the Mishnah, Zul midah beinonis. That's the intermediary. That sort of works. It works. When I can establish myself and you can establish yourself, that works. The yesh omrim, but some people say, Zul midat sdom. That is the attribute of Sodom, Sodomites, which we explained in an earlier class. Sodom was a wicked country, a wicked city. So says the Mishnah, some people say that's midat sdom. Why is that midat sdom? Why is there such a contrast? The Mishnah says it's the intermediary, meaning it's the proper way. Midah beinonit, it's okay. That's the way of life. What I have is mine, what you have is yours. Why is the other opinion saying, no, that's midat sdom. That's a Sodomite way of going. How does that work? And the answer is because the risk of capitalism is the wealthy become wealthy and the poor become poor. So there's a risk, there's a danger in allowing each person to fight for themselves. There's a danger in allowing each person to stand on his own feet. Because the moment you do that, you're allowing the wealthy to become more wealthy. And you're going to cause the poor to become more poor, more desperate, more in need. And therefore the Mishnah says, some people say that way of life, the capitalist way of life, is a midat sdom. It's a Sodomite way. It's Sdom does that. Sdom makes the wealthy wealthier and the poor poorer. And therefore the Torah says that there's one way we're going to stop this from happening. Yes, the Torah wants us to build up our own wealth. The Torah wants us to work for ourselves, not for anyone else, and to make a living, to be able to survive and live properly. But watch out that the other should be able to do the same. Make sure that the next guy next door can do the same. Help him build himself up. Help him in his own success. Enable him to stand on his own 2 feet. Lend him the money if he needs the money, but don't charge him interest. Because the moment you charge him interest, you're going to make the poor man even poorer. And the way the Torah protects the capitalist way of life is by putting in guidelines and fences and morality into the system of capitalism. That hopefully explains it. And I think for us, it's an important message. Because for us, the Torah is teaching us here is that Torah wants us to be independent on the one hand, but sensitive to the other on the other hand. Yes, go out to work. Yes, fight for your parnasa. Yes, work hard to earn a living. That's what Torah wants us to do. Each independently for themselves. But at the same time, help the other person do the same. That's a powerful message. Don't look to make money off your finances or your money that you're lending to somebody else. Unless you're running a business. And that we discussed earlier on today. If there's any questions, I'd like to hear from you. That hopefully explains a little bit with regards to the parsha of this week, Parshat Bahar, which speaks about lending of money and not charging interest. That hopefully explains a little bit of this time of the year, this time of the world, in which there is such a need for sensitivity to the other and realizing the person's position next to you and enabling both me and him to stand on our 2 feet, each one on their own. Thank you for joining. If there's any questions or comments, criticism or critique, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, and I wish you a wonderful Shabbat Shalom. There's going to be a Kabbalat Shabbat. There's going to be a Kabbalat Shabbat this evening, 4:20 p.m. in exactly 5 hours. We're going to be having a Kabbalat Shabbat, pre-Shabbos Kabbalat Shabbat with 2 amazing guests. We have Chazan Yanki Lemmer, a top Chazan from the Lincoln Square Synagogue, who'll be joining us, as well as Rabbi Shaul Robinson, who is the rabbi of the Linksville Shul Synagogue. So we'll be having the 2 of them together. It's fantastic. New York meets Johannesburg. So join us on Zoom and on YouTube as well. I wish you all well. Stephen Herr, does it say that one who charges interest won't see Tchiat HaMetim? I'm not sure of that, Stephen. I'm not sure of that. Good. Thank you very much for joining. Have a wonderful day. Keep well and healthy, and keep safe and sane. All the best.